The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of 580 WCHS or West Virginia Radio Corporation.
That's it right there. Now be well.
It's 8 minutes, I say, past the hour of 9 o'clock. And on the line with me is Mountain Party gubernatorial candidate Charlotte Pritt. Charlotte, good morning.
Good morning, Danny.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, yeah. Okay.
I told you this when we talked yesterday, but I'm going to tell you something. This has been 20 years since you ran for governor before.
Oh, my.
Yeah, 20 years. And I remember, and maybe you had just made an appearance on Hoppy's show, and I mean, it may have been one of your very last, and you don't remember it because everything was probably running so fast. You had a gathering right out here on the steps of this radio station. In other words, you'd probably just gotten off the air, and you went out there, and a bunch of your supporters were there, and the media came, and it was a great photo op, but it was right here at this station. I don't know why I remember these silly little things, but you were standing out here.
Well, that's a piece of history, West Virginia history and my history and your history. We both have been public servants and have been a piece of helping to move West Virginia forward.
Weren't you the first female nominee?
Yes, I was the first female to actually be able to be nominated for one of the major parties and the first female to be nominated for governor.
Well, you're the only one still.
Well, yes, and actually, Danny, this is interesting. I made history again because I'm the first, I think, in West Virginia history that has been a gubernatorial nominee for two different parties.
Charlotte and I know each other because since she ran in '96, all of our parents had died, and we all knew each other. And I was friends with her family, and my relationship with Charlotte, we would have different political differences, but we are friends, and her sister is one of my closest friends in the world, and as is the rest of her family. And did you get, not your philosophy, but did you get your politics from your dad?
Oh, absolutely. My dad was a wonderful social justice person, and as you know, Danny, he was the president of United Mine Workers Local 1766, and that always taught us that if God blesses you with a healthy mind, healthy body, and a good mind, that it's our responsibility to try to pick up the slack and help anyone else who may not be as fortunate. And he was wonderful on human rights, on all issues. If he saw people being discriminated against, my dad took a stand. And he really was a great role model, both my parents were, as far as their loving compassion for people. And my mom, Lanham, was one of the most wonderful Christians that anyone could ever imagine. And she never said one unkind word about anyone. She always tried to see the best in you and the most positive thing. And so she was a great influence. I went to live with her when I was 15 because she was sick, and I went to stay with Mama. And what a blessing that was in my life to have these three very powerful influences in my life. My mother was a beauty maker. She did quilts, and she loved sewing and doing quilting. And
she cooked a good plate of food.
Oh, she did. She really did.
You don't remember this, but when I was courting your sister, I bought her a microwave. And because I'd come up there and she'd have all the food out on the table, and I said, I want to heat this up. And not everybody had a microwave. We called them radar ranges in those days, yeah. But we had a microwave. And of course, I'd go up there and argue with your dad, and I think your dad enjoyed talking to me because we would debate, and he liked a good debate.
Well, he did, and I grew up with this because in the Pritt family, they were all, my grandfather Pritt was a Republican, a rabid Republican, and my dad and my Aunt Georgie were Yellow Dog Democrats. They liked their mother. So there were all kinds of funny stories about what would happen when we get into these discussions, but what we did know is this. You could be in a heated discussion, you could question each other's thinking abilities because they weren't with your candidate, but what we knew was at the end of the day, we loved each other and we respected one another as individuals, even though we may have completely different views. And I think that really, really served me well because as governor, being the Mountain Party, then I could be able to work with both sides of the aisle equally, and even maybe to go to each caucus, because the Mountain Party itself is made up of people from lots of different parties. And Jesse Johnson was a former Republican. Of course, I was a Democrat. Bob Henry was a Democrat. Frank Young was a Republican. So it's open to anyone who wants to look at the issues. We're a very, very issue-oriented party. We're not about labels. We're about really looking at what we can do to move West Virginia forward on the issues that are in our platform.
People that, not necessarily being unkind, but that want to either unknowingly, unwittingly diminish your candidacy would think that you are a spoiler.
Danny, I think this is one of the most amazing things, because I don't know if you know, but I have more legislative experience than all the other candidates combined, all of them combined. And that legislative experience is a stellar 100% voting record for seniors, 100% voting record with working families and small businesses, 100% voting record with working with West Virginians with disabilities and standing up for human rights issues. And I've won so many awards in all of these areas. And then on the other hand, too, I have won more races than all the other candidates combined. And so I have to think, if this were a horse race, most people would be betting on the horse that has won the most races and the jockey that has the most experience. They wouldn't be calling that person a spoiler. So I find it very interesting that they would consider the person who's most qualified and has the most experience and who's won the most races a spoiler. So
okay, so let's go to that, because maybe that's not the right word, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And those words aren't coming from me. I'm just.
I know. But here's what I'd also like to say. I think there is a spoiler in this. The spoiler, however, is the obscene amount of money coming in to the electoral process and to the democratic process. So with all of this money, people are thinking, oh, who can win? They're not looking at who's been there on the front lines, really, really standing up for them and voting for them, and who represents their values. They become so disillusioned. They become so beaten down that what they say, oh, well, I'm going to hold my nose and I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. And this is such a sad commentary on democracy.
Are you, is there any way, look, I work for one of these radio stations, so I'm loyal to WCHS and Metro News, but is there any way you can wiggle yourself into those debates? I mean, that would, I think that's the difference. For president, I'm backing Governor Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Bill Weld are, I think they were two great governors, but they don't have a shot if they can't get in the debates. Can you get in the debates?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what happened with that. You know, the Mountain Party has sued, even though the Mountain Party is the longest-standing third party in West history. We've been on the ballot. We are balloted just like the Democrats and Republicans, and the Libertarians now are on the ballot as well. But we've been on the ballot for 16 years now. And in the constitutional, we have someone running for governor on the Constitution Party, and I'm hoping and praying that they also. It's anti-democratic. It's antithetical to the democratic process to keep any candidate out, and especially a balloted candidate, by using, really nonsensical kinds of things. And so it serves the democratic process to have all of the candidates on the national and statewide level to be able to have exposure to the citizens. And to not allow that, I think, is extremely, it's just not patriotic in the sense that our whole system is set up. If we want to call ourselves a democracy, then we must make the information available to the voters. And I think that's what's in question with the Supreme Court allowing corporations to be like people and just put unbelievable amounts of money into campaigns. So the real spoiler right now is this obscene amount of money that has been funneled into the electoral process, and also the way in which it actually deflates the spirit of people, because people lose their enthusiasm for the process because they don't believe in it. They think, well, there's one billionaire, and in West Virginia's case, you've got a billionaire, Jim Justice, who, as a matter of fact, was a Republican shortly before he announced to run for Democrat.
I don't know what they're going to do with him, because he's announced he didn't vote for President Obama, and he voted for Mitt Romney. What? I mean, that's what?
Well, that's very curious, isn't it?
Well, and that thing was wired in the primary against Booth and against Jeff.
Well, Jeff had the most experience of anyone. Booth is they both are outstanding people, and I was interviewed by a national radio about Jim Justice and the billionaire coming in, and I said, well, we have excellent candidates, and they said we have Jeff Kessler, who has incredible experience, has been fighting for the working people of West Virginia, and Booth Goodwin, who's a United States Attorney for the Southern District of West Virginia, his impeccable character, and hardworking. His entire family has always been involved in public service work, a servant to the people of West Virginia. So I find this, I think it's the money piece that people are just thinking, oh, well, he's a billionaire, he'll be able to win through using his money. But then you have a millionaire with pull. So you look at that, and then it says to some voters, well, who can I vote for? Well, here's Jean Pritt, who is a proven people-driven candidate whose voting record is clearly with the workers of Virginia. I've always been endorsed by AFL-CIO when, in 1996 I was rather, and then with United Mine Workers. I was a member of WVEA and AFT, and now a member of UE. So, and my brother Dale was a member of the Teamsters Union, but then my brother Roger and Linda were involved with finance and businesses. My mom was a small business owner, and I've been a small business owner myself. So, we've always focused on West Virginians and trying to infuse the money that's going to these tax credits for large international corporations back to the people of West Virginia so we can recycle that money and put our tax dollars back into West Virginia. Like, we have to reinstate prevailing wage, and we have to get rid of right to work. I want to applaud Jennifer Bailey, Judge Bailey, for striking down the right to work law. I think that was, it was a great move, and I hope it stands. So, as governor, I'm going to do what I've always been doing all of these years, and that is fighting for the rights of the people of West Virginia.
I'm gonna let you go, and let me tell you why. Because yesterday, and we'll have you back on several times. And
yes.
On this local level, you'll be able to get a lot of exposure and talk about. And I'll ask. This is kind of a light interview, but I'll ask some tough questions. But I don't know if you know it, but yesterday there were 26 drug overdoses reported within 4 hours in Huntington.
I did see that. And,
yeah.
Danny, that is such an amazing, we have to do something about that, and I do have some ideas about that. I've been, since I was in public service work as a legislator, I've been doing intensive work with stress management, mental health, and I have done some counseling with people who have drug addiction, and I have some ideas about that. I think that we can do much more than we are doing to help our young people, and having stress management and mental health services available to anyone at any time.
Your friend and mine, your very good friend, and my very, very good friend, Steve Williams, is calling here in about. All right, we're going to break. We'll be back 21 past the hour on 5 Live.